Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the mental health and personality factors that may be at work in the life and death of Judy Garland. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So first I'll look at the background of Judy Garland, and then I'll move to the mental health and personality factors. Judy Garland was born in Grand Rapids, Minnesota on June 10, 1922. Her name at that time was Frances Ethel Gumm. She was the youngest of 3 daughters. Her parents were both vaudeville actors. Garland was raised in an unhappy home. Her parents did not get along well. They would frequently separate and reconcile. Her family moved to Lancaster, California in June of 1926. Her father bought a theater there, and her mother prepared Garland for life as a singer and an actress. Garland and her sisters performed in a dance troupe called the Gumm Sisters. After being laughed at when performing in Chicago in 1934 because of the name Gumm, they were encouraged to change their name. At some point, the idea of Garland came up. So after that, they went by the name of Garland Sisters. There are many stories about how that name was selected. It's not clear exactly what happened there. Eventually, Frances changed her name to Judy, and this is where we get Judy Garland. These years of performing were very challenging for Garland. Her mother pushed her quite hard, not letting her sleep enough. She had to perform even when she was sick. It is likely that this had quite an impact on Garland's later behavior. Garland signed a contract with MGM in 1935. In addition to singing performances, she was eventually cast in several movies. Garland claimed that the studio arranged for her and other young performers to be given prescribed amphetamines so they could continue making film after film. She said they gave them barbiturates as well so they could fall asleep. So we see this dangerous cycle of stimulants to stay awake and sedatives to fall asleep. Now, Garland accused her mother of doing the same thing prior to this. The actor Mickey Rooney, who performed alongside of Garland, claimed that Garland was never given any substances by MGM. He said that Judy Garland chose her own path. Garland also claimed that the studio made her diet because they believed she was too heavy. Garland's most famous role would be in the 1939 movie The Wizard of Oz. She would win an Academy Award for her performance in that film. In 1941, she would get married to a man named David Rose. They would divorce in 1944. She continued to have success in films, including the musical Meet Me in St. Louis, which was released in 1944. This film featured the song Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Garland would marry director Vincente Minnelli in 1945. In 1946, they would have a daughter named Liza, who would also become an Academy Award-winning actress. Garland and Minnelli would divorce in 1951. In 1947, while filming the movie The Pirate, Garland had what she referred to as a nervous breakdown. Later, she would attempt to bring an end to her own life. Because the studio had to work around Garland's mental health problems, the film ended up losing money. In 1948, Garland would be in the movie Easter Parade, which did very well. Not long after this, Garland would be consuming morphine, barbiturates, and alcohol at a high level. Her substance use, along with migraine headaches, led her to miss a number of shooting days for the musical The Barclays of Broadway. She was suspended by MGM and was replaced by Ginger Rogers. When her suspension was complete, she was feeling a bit better. The next musical she was in finished ahead of schedule by 5 days. But for her next film, Annie Get Your Gun, she once again had attendance problems, and this time was replaced by an actress named Betty Hutton. During that whole situation, Garland's depression was being treated with electroshock therapy. Not long after this, Garland was treated in a hospital in Boston, Massachusetts for quite some time. She was taken off all the substances that she had been misusing, but this led to weight gain. When she returned to filming, she resumed her substance use in order to lose that weight. After being suspended yet again in 1950, Garland attempted to bring an end to her life for a second time. Garland's relationship with MGM would end in September of 1950. She was having significant financial difficulties due to her behavior, so her friend Bing Crosby invited her onto his radio show, This boosted her career significantly. She did a concert tour in 1951, which was quite successful. She would marry Cindy Luft in 1952. They would have 2 children, Lorna and Joey. Those 2 would get into acting as well. In 1954, Garland was in A Star is Born, which was a Warner Brothers film, the first of many remakes of the 1937 film. This film would lose money, even though it was considered a decent movie. After this, Garland was featured in many more movies, and she started working on television. Garland was diagnosed with acute hepatitis in November 1959. The physicians were not optimistic about her future, even though she was released in January of 1960. They told her she would probably not live even 5 more years, and if she somehow managed to survive, she would be disabled and never sing again. Garland would later say that she was greatly relieved when the physicians told her that news because the pressure was off for the first time in her life. A few months later, she recovered and resumed working. A special named The Judy Garland Show would air in 1962. It was fairly successful and would become a television series by the same name. This series would be canceled after 26 episodes. Even though Garland was earning quite a bit of money at this point, she owed the IRS several $100,000 because she didn't pay any taxes in 1951 and 1952. Garland had an affair with Glenn Ford that lasted for 6 months. Her marriage to Cindy Luft had fallen apart by 1963, although they would not be divorced until 1965. While on tour in Australia, Garland showed up late to a performance and appeared intoxicated. She was booed and heckled and would walk off of the stage after just 45 minutes. Garland married her tour promoter, Mark Herron, in 1965, although they were together sometime before that. They would separate in 1966. Garland accused Herron of assaulting her. He said that he was acting in self-defense. Their divorce was finalized in 1969. About a month later, Garland married nightclub manager Mickey Deans. It would be Deans who would find Garland dead in the bathroom of their residence in London on June 22, 1969. Garland was 47 years old. Her cause of death was incautious self-overdosage of barbiturates. I guess incautious was used to distinguish it from intentional. It is believed she ingested the barbiturates that killed her over a long period of time, as opposed to a single dose. 2 bottles of barbiturates were found next to her bed. One contained 100 pills and it was unopened, and another one contained 25 pills. Now moving to the mental health and personality factors. As far as Garland's personality, many people have said that Garland was a bit of a paradox. At different times, she had different attributes that did not seem compatible. So speculating about her personality is quite difficult. Based on descriptions available, here are my thoughts about her potential personality profile. She had high openness to experience. She was artistic, creative, and adventurous. Although she did not seem to enjoy fantasy, she didn't have much respect for it. It does appear as though she had a high level of fantasy. She had low conscientiousness. She was disorganized, frequently late to work or missed work. Her level of extroversion was probably a little bit above average. She was described as having a lot of energy and being exciting. We see mid-range to low agreeableness. This may have appeared lower because of substance use. She was described as narcissistic, greedy, headstrong, and demanding, all of which are consistent with low agreeableness. Neuroticism was probably a bit higher than average. She was described as neurotic, unstable, turbulent, erratic, fragile, and volatile. As far as mental health disorders, some people believe, of course, that Garland had substance use disorder and perhaps major depressive disorder. It, of course, was reported that she had a nervous breakdown, as I mentioned, which could point to a lot of different disorders. Depression would be one of those. I'm not aware that she had any official mental health diagnosis in her life. After her death, one mental health professional stated that she believed Garland had bulimia. Garland remains a bit of a mystery. She was caught in a self-destructive cycle for much of her career. She had a tremendous amount of talent, which led to her being offered great roles in movies, but she was fired from many movies that would have likely been outstanding for her career. Her amphetamine use was not just to gain energy, but to help her control her weight. She believed, perhaps accurately, that Hollywood executives were demanding that she be thin. Garland also had severe insomnia. She would use stimulants to stay awake and then sedatives to go to sleep, as I mentioned. Chronic insomnia, which is improperly managed by and perhaps caused by substance use, is something that we see repeated across many tragic celebrity cases. For example, Michael Jackson, Marilyn Monroe, Jimi Hendrix, Elvis Presley, and Heath Ledger. The lifestyle demands, or at least appears to demand, an inhuman amount of energy. Rather than slow down, many celebrities use substances to obtain what should be unobtainable, a perpetual state of rapid motion and productivity. Garland attempted suicide twice in her life. This could point to a lot of characteristics like impulsivity, depression, and low self-esteem. Another one of the theories about Garland's mental health is that she may have had bipolar disorder. This theory, in part, is supported by statements that Liza Minnelli has made. She said that Garland had mood swings, going from ecstatic to extremely sad, with nothing in between. When she was a young actress, she was the target of harassment of a sexual nature quite a bit from executives and others who worked in the productions. People that she trusted with her money often betrayed her. One of the reasons for her massive and continued financial problems was theft and fraud by people she trusted. So her money problems weren't just about her impulsivity, substance use, and repeated suspensions. Judy Garland did not have an easy life. Her experiences stand as evidence that a life that appears glamorous may not be what it seems. The image that so many people have in their mind of Garland is one of perfection, not just in her physical appearance, musical talent, and acting ability, but in her life in general. She was a movie star. But as it turns out, that status came at a high cost. Those are my thoughts on Judy Garland. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.